Makes a bucket and a foul. Breakaway. Io.
Oh, meet me at the rim and don't be late.
Give me the hot sauce. Did you not get the memo? Derek Rose can go upstairs.
Oh, loose ball. Giddey. The steal. Right for the lead. Yeah.
Big time play. Big time play.
Giddey for the win. Go!
My God. I cannot believe this.
Improbable.
Hey, everybody. Hope you're staying cool in this oppressive heat. Time for a brand new edition of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. Stacey King, Tim Kelley alongside. Guys, how you managing with the heat? Doing all right?
Well, just keep a little fan nearby, mist your face. Make sure you got the sunblock on so you guys can't call me Larry the Lobster.
Well, we'll call you.
Yeah,
that
we're still going to
anyway.
call you that anyway. That's your name forever, buddy.
We're recording on a Saturday. Both these guys are going to be out and about later.
Yes.
Braving 96-degree temperatures.
Yes, it's worth it. You know, normally, or the fourth holiday, my good friend, one of my best friends, normally has a boat.
Yeah.
And we go up to Lake Geneva for the weekend, hang out, and, you know, we do some kind of barbecue, which you've never been invited, Mark. I always ask, why is Mark not here? So, but this year, no, he didn't call me. He didn't. There's no boat. His boat's being repaired.
Tim was on the water watching fireworks last night.
That's right.
Wow. Wow. Really?
He got himself on a boat.
Really?
I could see three cities shows at the same time. It was
Whose
fantastic.
boat were you on?
My brother's boat. If your boat's not in the water, you go on somebody else's.
You know what? See, this all stems from Mark when he asked me to come on the boat and serve hors d'oeuvres.
I know.
And I
That's where
refused
it
to do
started.
it. And that's where it started. And I haven't been invited since. But I'm going to remember this. But I got some friends, too. I got some friends with boats. I'll be out there on the Lake Michigan today playing in the playpen.
So if you see Stacey, honk the horn. You'll be
Hey,
okay.
yeah, come on over, jump on the boat with us. We have a good time. We'll have all drinks and everything. My real friend over here, I'm not talking to him the rest of the show.
Well, just like our man card says, or your man card, stay hydrated with beer.
Oh, yeah, so you don't have to worry about that. I'll be hydrated. Trust me,
Yeah.
I will be hydrated.
That's right.
Well, NBA teams are hydrated right now, trying to make some deals. It's been a very slow free agency period. There was a flurry of activity, but not many big names are available in free agency this year, so a lot of teams spent money to bring back their own guys. The Bulls, one move they made so far, Trey Jones, a 3-year, $24 million deal. We talked about it on our last episode, Stacey. Both the front office and coaching staff really like what they saw in Trey Jones. His season ended early because of a minor injury, but they wanted to bring him back, and the Lonzo Ball trade kind of freed up that spot for him.
Well, in the beginning, like I said, you don't know what the method of the madness is. They re-signed Lonzo Ball. You think, okay, they're going to bring Lonzo in. We're going to have a surplus of guards again next season. They made the move to move Lonzo to Cleveland, which gave them an opportunity to bring Trey Jones back. Trey Jones is a lot better than I think what people gave him credit for, and he showed that here, given time and minutes. I think the coaching staff believes in him. I think front office believes in him, or they wouldn't have brought that money and got that money together to bring him back. Now, the interesting question is where do you go from there? Because you got Josh Giddey still trying to work out his deal. You got Io, you got Kobe will be coming up next season. There's a whole bunch of questions they got to answer at that guard spot, and there's still a surplus of guards on the roster.
Yeah, right now it looks like there's a stalemate on the Josh Giddey negotiations. We remember what happened last year when as soon as the bell rang for free agency, they locked up Patrick Williams with a 5-year, $90 million contract, and now they realize that there's no money out there for a team to give an offer sheet to Giddey, so they're trying to haggle the price a little bit. And Giddey's camp, according to the Sun-Times, is insistent they want that $30 million deal.
Listen. You're the Bulls. You have complete control of this situation because he's a restricted free agent, and you could just sit out here and just say, "Oh, hey, listen, okay, then go out and see what you can get." If you go out and see what you can get, and I think the word was, Brooklyn was the only one that had the money to pay him what he was looking for, or close to what he's looking for, and the Bulls would have an opportunity if that happened to match it. I think they learned their lesson last year with Patrick Williams. They didn't have to they were in the same situation with Patrick Williams last year, a restricted free agent, and they were bidding against themselves, and they ended up giving Patrick that $90 million contract, which, some people scratched their head on it. They doubled down. They believe in Patrick. They believe that, he's one of their first draft picks they got. They believe in him. They think he's close to turning the corner. But with Josh, you got to be very careful because, he could do a Jimmy Butler. He could say,
take
you
the
know
1
what?
year,
I'll take the 1 year deal,
qualifying
offer, and then I'm on the free agent market when
unrestricted.
all those teams next year will have money. Yeah. See, this year teams, because of the injuries to star players, Boston, Indiana, they're selling. They're getting rid of pieces. They're getting rid of pieces to gear up for the next year or two and make another run at it. Jason Tatum is still, a big part of what Boston is doing. There's word that they're trying to chase Jaylen Brown, after giving him that big contract. There's word that they're talking to teams about moving him. So there's going to be some money freed up next season for a lot of teams. And if Josh pulls that Jimmy Butler and bets on himself, now there's a big gamble with that because, you get in a situation, you get hurt. You miss half the season.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now if you come in and do like Jimmy and play like an all-star and you get put on the all-star team, now that favors you because now you're saying, okay, well, you know what? I bet on myself. I'm averaging 20 points a game, 13 that led the league in assists, triple doubles. If he does that, and he's capable of doing that, that's why if you're the Bulls, you want to say, okay, we want to play hard. We don't just want to give the kid $30 million because he wants the same kind of contract that Suggs got. And what you got to ask yourself in that situation with Orlando is trying to build a team around their young guys. They went through the draft. They drafted all these kids. Suggs was one of the guys they drafted. Suggs has shown that he's a two-way player in this league when healthy. He's had some bad luck the last year and a half of injuries, but when he's on the floor, he gives you leadership, he gives you defense, and he can score, okay? He's not the greatest shooter, but he can put the ball in the basket. So they paid him. And listen, I'm never going to say somebody's overpaid, but $30 million is a lot for Jalen Suggs.
Yeah, I agree.
So now you got a guy like Josh Giddey whose production is better than Jalen Suggs as far as number-wise. Maybe he doesn't play defense as good as Suggs does, but his assists, his scoring, all the intangible things that he can do, and plus he's a big guard. It's not like you're talking about a 6'2", 6'3" kid. This kid's 6'7", 6'8", point guard, and he rebounds like a power forward, and these are all the things that makes your team good. So, AK and Mark are going to have their hands full. You got to be very careful when you negotiate with him because, again, if he says, I'm just going to bet on myself and say, you know what, I'll take the one-year qualifying offer, and I'll be an unrestricted free agent next year when that money comes available, and let's see what happens.
Of course, you called all these games, so you know exactly how good Giddey was down the stretch. But I was, in preparing for the show, I was looking at some numbers. And over his final 19 games, Josh Giddey, he averaged 21 points, almost 11 rebounds, 9 assists, a steal and a half. He shot 50% from the floor, 45.7% from beyond the arc. Those are all-star numbers. And I know from a Bulls perspective, they can say to Josh, all right, do it again. Do it for a full season. But you're doing – Those are all-star numbers and certainly worth $30 million a year. It's kind of funny that they immediately gave Patrick Williams his money, and now they're not going to give Josh Giddey his money. It's just like
Well, and you also got to look at the body of work that he did in Oklahoma City before he came to Chicago. Before Shai Gilgeous got the keys handed to him, he was a big part of what Oklahoma City was doing. He was part of that young core, that young movement. And then, that situation happened that's where his problems started, the off-the-court situation. Then you had the losing his confidence a little bit with his shot. And then they benched him, after during the Dallas series, which, basically they told him next year you got to come back thinking about being a reserve. And I don't want to be a reserve. I want to go somewhere where I can start. And that's where that came about. So you have to be very careful because the body of work is there for him. He's a very good player. And you don't just see guys, LaMelo Ball is one that comes to mind, a big guard, 6'7", 6'8". He doesn't rebound like Josh Giddey does. Josh Giddey can go out and get you 10 rebounds every single night at the point guard position. He did average that over the last 19. And he's going to get you 10 or more assists a game. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be very meticulous of how he does everything. He's not flashy. He's not doing all the craziness. He's not beating his chest. He goes out there workman-like, I'm going to go out there and get a triple-double. If there's one guy, and I always said this, there's only a few guys in this league that have a triple-double. He's one of them. He's going to get you points, rebounds, and assists. I'm not saying 25 points every night, 10, 15 assists, and 10 boards. But I'm saying if he averaged 10, 10, and 10, he could do that because he's always under the rebounds. He's always rebounding at the defensive end, offensive end. His biggest thing is shooting, which he shot the ball much better when he came over for the Bulls. Confidence was there. Shout out to Peter Patton, who really helped him. And then second of all, knowing that it's your team. Knowing that after Zach was traded, knowing that, okay, now the pressure falls on me. This is my team now. I know Kobe's still here, but I'm running the show at the point guard position. And I think his confidence just soared. And sometimes if you're the agent and you're Josh Giddey, you got to sit there and say, hey, look, I loved it here. I loved it here. I love what they're doing here. I love the movement that they're doing. And I'm a big part of that. I'm not saying take a pay cut, but I think you have to be realistic too. Like $30 million a season doesn't seem like a lot to a LeBron James or Steph Curry or those kind of players. if you're not in that upper echelon, you got, general manager's got to pause for a second, like, because if we give him 30 now, what is it going to be like at the second contract comes around? You're going to have to start at 40, 45.
Well,
he's still young.
You saw that the extension that Devin Booker got with Phoenix, he's going to be making $75 million. That's where we're going.
Yes, and you're looking at a guy like Cooper Flagg that is going to be probably make $500 million in his second contract. Mm-hmm. That's why Dallas got rid of Luka, because they knew that Luka was going to be on that super max contract, and he's only 25 years old. And you're going to have the same situation with Cooper Flagg. If Cooper Flagg turns out to be as good as everybody thinks he's going to be, and Dallas obviously thinks he's being there, they're betting everything on him because of the Luka situation. They're going to make sure that he is set up to succeed there. So let's say his rookie contract goes over, he gets super max. He turns around and he makes all defense and he makes all these individual awards. His money goes up. Okay, he goes to that second contract, and you talking $500 million easily. He's going to make that.
I think one of the things that the Bulls front office is thinking about right now is AK told us when he appeared on the show a few months ago that they want to have cap space for 2026 when reportedly a number of top players will be available in free agency. But right now, to me, cap space is like fool's gold because teams are re-signing their own.
Yes.
They're extending these guys. They're not going to be available. You're only going to get a fraction of the guys you think might reach free agency in 2026. And when they made the Ball trade for Isaac Okoro has two years locked in, so that already cut into their cap space for the summer of 2026. That's why I think that negotiate a fair contract with Josh Giddey, and let's move forward. I don't think you can look at 2026 and going, well, we're going to get a star or 2 stars. That doesn't happen.
It's not guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that it's going to happen because, as you said, Mark, a lot of teams are going to have money.
Yeah, right.
A lot of attractive places will have money. You don't think Miami's? I mean, they're right now trying to swing for the fences. They're trying to get in every single trade talk that you can get into right now to get some superstar player in Miami. You think Pat Riley's going to sit on his hands in 2 years and not go after a Giannis or not go after some star player to bring him to Miami? I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams with money and cap space. So, I mean, to sit back and say, well, let's just wait to them, I think what they're doing right now, they're going in the right direction. They're going in the right direction. They're getting their young core together. They're getting pieces around now. Now, what you want from that situation, Mark, is you want that young core to entice a superstar player to say, hey, wait, you know what? The Bulls are close. They're just 1 or 2 players away. And if I come there, maybe convince someone else to come here, let's take a pay cut or whatever, to go to Chicago and win in Chicago. They got a great fan base. They play in front of a sellout arena every single night. They're a big draw on the road. That's enticing the guys. One of the things that's like really crazy is when you're on a bad team and you go to an arena, the other home team's arena, and there's nobody in there.
Right.
You can actually hear fans talk. Hey, what are you doing after the game? You can actually hear that. And when I was in Minnesota, it was like that. You could hear people talk. When I was in Chicago, we were always sold out on the road. So, when guys look at that kind of stuff, they look at that kind of stuff, they look at that kind of team. How do you think Brooklyn was able to get Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant that year?
Well, that's when Kenny Atkinson was there. They had a good young team.
They had a good young squad, and they were like, hey, you know what? We don't want to go to New York. Let's go here. They're already halfway built up. Us 3 going there will take them to the next level. They didn't like Kenny Atkinson as a coach, and they ended up getting rid of him. But, at the end of the day, guys are looking at that. Like, okay, Chicago is one of the big cities. It's a big market. Think about people's legacy if they come here, and they were able to take the Bulls to a finals or take the Bulls and win a championship. Think about that kid's legacy. Boy, he'd be revered in this city. He'd be revered everywhere, especially Bulls fans everywhere in the world. They'd have a statue. Seriously, you would get a statue if you won a championship here. That's how long and how starving this city is for a championship basketball team again. Because, fans are getting tired of seeing Indiana. You think they didn't burn them up to see Indiana in the finals? Detroit on the come up. Milwaukee winning one. These are guys in our division. Cleveland having a chance next year to win a championship.
They might be the favorite in the East.
So it's got to burn Bulls fans up seeing all these teams who were below us and now are, kind of ahead of us now. We've got to get back into the championship caliber run. We need whatever it takes, do whatever it takes. We've got to get back to that. We are Chicago. We are Chicago Bulls. You just don't come in our city and beat us. We want titles. We play for none but titles. That's all we play for is titles.
We'll talk about some of the free agent moves around the league, but first let's talk about the next step for the Bulls. Of course, we know they're trying to play fast with a young core, and that next step is going to be going out to Las Vegas to play in the Summer League, which starts on July 10th. Let's take a look at the roster that they have, and they're going to Modest Buzelis is going to go out there. I think he'll only play a game or two, and then they'll shut him down. But, of course, Noah Senge, their first-round draft pick from France, will be featured during Summer League. They've got a couple of guys that were on the Windy City Bulls last year, Javon Freeman Liberty.
Who's a good player.
David Mwaka, a big man who's going to be out there. And then there are 3 two-way guys, Lachlan Olbrich, the second-round pick from Australia, Jameer Young, who was with Windy City at the end of last year, and then Emmanuel Miller, a 6'7" forward, the brother of Leonard Miller, who they're going to have on the squad as well. So, Stacey, when you look at this list, a couple of names at the bottom there, you see Wooga Poplar, who was a very highly regarded two-guard out of Miami, and then he finished up at Villanova, and Josh Primo, who had the off-the-court issues, but he was considered a really good prospect coming out of Alabama.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, a lot of these kids, they're fighting for jobs, and one of the things too when you look at the Bulls roster, because to come on a summer league team, I got to look at the roster. I got to look at my realistic chances of making this squad.
Yeah.
So if you're a guard, you're sitting there saying, "Wow, man, they got a lot of guards on their roster. Like, can I make this team?" If you stand out and you show what you can do, they're gonna find a way to get you on this roster. If you're better than what you come out there and you put up good numbers, you show you have a grasp of the offense and defense, that you're a guy that's willing to do the dirty work, get dirty. Because a lot of these kids come in and think they got to score to impress coaches. Okay, no, you don't, because they got plenty of scorers on their roster already. What you need to do, and I used to tell guys when I coached in the CBA, you're not going to an NBA team on a call up to score 25 points a game. It's just not going to happen. You're going to be a practice player first. They're going to run you in practice. You're going to practice more than you're actually getting on the floor. And then in practice is where you show the coaching staff that you can be trusted, that you can go out there and do what you need to do to function out on the court with the rest of their players. We don't need you to score. We just play defense, pick up full court if you're a guard, run the show, make the right reads and passes. And if you're a big man, block shots, rebound, and run. Those are the things you need to concentrate. And if you're a forward, defense, getting over picks and screens, showing it the versatility to be able to guard multiple positions. Because the more versatile you are as a 6'7" wing, that you can guard 2s, 3s, and 4s, you're that much more valuable to a team. And whether the Bulls take you or not, there are other teams out there watching and saying, wait, I like that kid that's playing for Chicago is really nice. I'm going to give him an opportunity. I want to bring him to camp. I think he does a lot of good things that we're looking for. So you have to put that in your mind, that you're not just auditioning for the Bulls, you're auditioning for every NBA team that's in that summer league in Vegas.
I don't know if you guys saw the video that the Bulls put out on social media with Modest Buzelis giving the 2 draft picks a tour.
Oh, my God.
They went out on the lake. He took them through the training. Modest is quickly becoming the face of the franchise.
Listen, it was like a first grader telling kindergarten and showing the kindergartens around the elementary school. It was so funny, trying to get into the building. Their car didn't work. And then Miles was like, hey, didn't work, does it? I'm going to tell you something. He's got the best personality.
He's great.
I tell people all the time, they ask me what kind of player he is. I said, not only is he's going to be a great player and he's got the attitude, the willing to work. This is a kid that's got the personality to handle that, And so you like a kid. If I'm AK and Mark and Billy Donovan, man, you got to like the way that kid approaches the game. He's already put on probably about 10 pounds of muscle. Mm-hmm. He looks like he's been in the weight room all summer. I talked to him, a couple of weeks ago, and he said, Stacey, I'm in there every day. I'm trying to get better. I want to be better. And he said that from day one since he came here. Yeah. And so when you look at his attitude, his mentality, he wants to be great. And if you're AK and Mark in the Bulls front office, those are the kind of guys you want on your roster that have the mindset that they want to be great. They're willing to do whatever it takes. It's not about the money. I'm not, I want to make all this money. This guy says, hey, you know what? If I had to work a second job, I'd work a second job just to be in the NBA. If I had to go flip burgers at Five Guys and then still play basketball at night, I would do that. That's what you want to hear. Those are the kind of guys who are going to put in a hard day's work every single day, and they're going to get better, and they're going to have fun doing it.
Whispers, did you see that video?
I have not seen it.
They took him out on Lake Michigan, on a boat, and Noah Senge was kind of looking at the skyline. And just
he'd never been on a boat, he said.
Yeah, he said in France, he goes, yeah, we don't do that. And he was blown away Chicago in the summertime is undefeated.
Oh, yeah.
And Ilnyckj was really impressed.
That's a good recruiting point.
It's
don't bring him here in
interesting when
January.
people come into Chicago, they read about things, especially from another country. They read about things and hear these narratives.
Yes.
When they see how beautiful the city is, especially in the summertime, they're just blown away.
Did they get him pizza or hot dogs or anything like that too?
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they took him around. But I'm gonna tell you what, if I was UIC and DePaul, I would bring my recruits up here during the summertime.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't forget winter.
Yeah.
Don't come up here
Winter
in the
stuff.
winter time. No. You schedule your visit with the prospective players in the summertime because they come to Chicago in the summertime. Where do I sign?
Yeah.
Where do I sign? I'm coming here because I tell people all the time. When at one point I'm gonna be living somewhere warm during the winter months. I'm gonna be we call them snowbirds. Okay, at some point I'm gonna be that way. I'm not there yet, but at some point I will be. But Chicago in the summer, I will be back here in Chicago when the weather turns nice. I'll make a phone
Take him to a
call.
Cubs game.
Yeah, go to Cubs. I'll get on the phone, call my son. Hey, what's the weather like in Chicago? He's like, Dad, it's like 50, 52 degrees. Staying in Florida, staying in California. And I call again 2 weeks later. What's the weather like? Oh, it's 80. I'm on my way.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to be. But, I mean, there's no better place than Chicago. All these people on the outside, they hear about the crime and all this stuff. There's crime in every big city. Come on, let's just be real. I mean, so there's crime in small cities. I mean, it's just the way it is. But when those people call me like, oh, man, I don't know if I'm going to come to Chicago. There's so much crime, da-da-da. I'm like, trust me. Chicago's not like what the media portrays. Is there a crime here? Yeah, there's a lot of crime here. I'm not naive to not know there's crime here, but there's crime in every city. There's crime in my little city of Lawton, Oklahoma. I mean, so there's crime everywhere. But when they get here and you take them out to all the nice places and you go show all the landmarks and stuff, they're like, oh my God, I didn't know it was this beautiful. And they go crazy. They're like, I wouldn't mind living here.
How much would you play Modest in Summer League? They get 4 guaranteed games, and then they get 1 additional game after the standings.
Let me tell you. When I played all 82 games as a rookie, okay, and Will play. It was his second year. Will went for the first 4 games, and then I played 4 games in the Summer League. So, and then BJ played like 4 games. So after your rookie year, you don't want to play him too much. I mean, I'd probably say a couple of games just to see.
He's an established starter.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to show anything.
But what you want to see out of him is to move him to a different position. Play him at the 3. Let's see what he does at the 3. Let's see him bringing the ball, primary ball handler. Those are the kind of things. If you're Billy Donovan and him, you want to see if his game is grown since last year. 3 or 4 months ago. Let's see his ball handling. We saw it in the NBA game. He's doing this against all-star caliber players. The Summer League is really tough. It's hard for a good player to look good in the Summer League because Summer League, I consider it like prison ball. It's a physical.
There's a lot of desperation.
They're hungry. They're hungry.
Career.
And that's what I'm saying. They're hungry, Mark. These guys who come in know that their chances of making an NBA team is very slim.
Very
okay?
slim.
And they're going up against a guy who's already in the NBA. This guy played in the NBA last year. Modest is going to be on everybody's checklist when they play. They're going to go at him. They're going to pick him up full court. They're going to play physical with him. They're going to talk trash with him. That's what happens in the Summer League. And normally kids who had a year experience in the Summer League or 2 years, they don't look particularly well because of that style of play. Because they come out going, they maybe don't have the attitude like they did when they first went there the first year. So Modest could come out. I know he won't, but you see some of these kids come out there like, I'm just going to work on my jump shot.
It's a little summer run.
I'm just going to get summer run. Yeah. I'm not going to go full speed. And then they find out when somebody hits them in the face, like, oh man, I gotta turn on like it's an NBA Finals. I got to get myself ready. So I think I wouldn't play him a lot just because you don't want to get him hurt. You already know what he can do. But if you want to see him do some different things, like you want to see him play solely at small forward and be a primary ball handler, put him in those situations, put him out there guarding smaller guys. Let's see his defense. Let's see what he can do if he gets matched up against a 1 or a 2. Because we only saw him pretty much guard 3s and 4s last year, match sometimes 5s. But you want to see some different things out of him. This is what Summer League is for with the veteran players going in there.
What about Ilnyckj, second youngest player in the draft, 18 and a half years old? I'd give him as many minutes as he can.
He's going to listen. He's going to be out there every second. I'd probably play him about 24 minutes a game. He's going to play half the game. And I want to see him in different situations. I want to see him and Modest play together. If I'm going to have Modest out there for how many games they're going to play, I want to see both of them out there together. 1 at the 3, 1 at the 4. They're interchangeable. So let's see both of them in a defensive situation. Let's see how they respond with each other. As far as I want to see him get on the break. I want to see him rebound at their position. So yeah, I would like to see that. I'd like to see how Modest works with him and how he works with Modest.
A lot of things going on around the NBA. We'll talk about some of the moves in free agency. The Knicks have hired a coach, but first, I I'll tell you about one of our great sponsors, our good buddy Jeff Vukovic. For all your insurance needs, auto, home, and business, make sure to reach out to Jeff. In the heat of summer, he'll be there. He'll treat you like royalty. You can contact Jeff at jeffvuk.com. That's VUK.com. Phone number 847-825-4783. And the jingle is always in season, no matter how hot it gets. Courtesy, Stacey King.
Nationwide is on your side.
Nicely done. Now, coming up next, we'll talk about a very interesting gamble by the Milwaukee Bucks and all kinds of other free agency news. That's next on Give Me the Hot Sauce. The biggest shockwave so far in NBA free agency was a calculated risk by John Horst and the Milwaukee Bucks. They waived the multiple-time All-Star Damian Lillard, who, of course, is rehabbing from an Achilles tear he suffered in the opening round of the playoffs, may not play at all next season. And they went out and stole Miles Turner, who had just played in the finals, 4 years, $107 million. And before we get to the Milwaukee angle, how cheap is Indiana? They didn't want to go into the tax, and they just made it to the finals. They were haggling. They offered, I read, $22 million a year. The Bucks went to like 26, 27. They wouldn't come up that little bit to keep a guy who helped them get to the finals.
Well, here's the thing with that, Mark. They've been trying to move him for like the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah,
okay.
That's true.
They've made it clear they were trying to move him, and they weren't a championship caliber team during that time. So they got rid of Sabonis, and then when Sabonis went to Sacramento and did well and is playing well, they were like, hey, you know what? We might have to get rid of Miles Turner. They were talking about it. His name.
Yeah, but it's all about not going into the luxury tax.
Exactly.
How much money did they make with 4 rounds of playoffs, and they won't go into the tax?
Well, and here's the situation too. Like, you know, these guys are like homegrown guys they drafted. You know, there's got to be some kind of loyalty in that, especially a guy who's produced.
10 years,
yes,
Miles
he's produced, and he's still an elite rim protector. He's made himself into a viable three-point shooter. He was one of the reasons why you got to the finals. And I know Tyrese Halliburton's going to get a lot of credit, and Rick Carlisle should because he's one of the best coaches out there. But, you know, he was the anchor of your defense. You know, he covered up a lot of mistakes. Him and Siakam, they were everywhere defensively. So losing him, you not only do you lose Tyrese Halliburton for maybe a whole season, now you lost, like, you know, one of the guys who's like the pulse of your team, a guy that everyone looks up to, that's like a captain everybody looks up to and respects. And you let him walk to a team in your division.
And those are hated rivals. They've had all kinds of run-ins, the Bucks and the Pacers.
In your division. Yeah. Come on, man. Like
the Pacers and the Celtics could be in the play-in. I mean, the Celtics got rid of 3 of their top 6 guys.
And they probably still are not done.
I mean, I don't know what Boston's – obviously you got Jaylen Brown and Derek White, two really good players, but they've got nothing around them.
Well, and here's the thing, too. A lot of these teams, you know, the injury played an important role in a lot of this. Boston is looking at all the money they've got invested in 3-4 guys. Okay, you have Porzingis makes a lot of money. Tatum and Brown have astronomical contracts.
Derek White's well paid, too.
He's Derek White. And then, you know, Drew Holiday wasn't no slump.
$35 million.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got Al Horford, who
who's going to leave?
Yeah, who's going to leave?
Golden State or some other team.
You have a lot of money wrapped up in just, you know, your star players, your main guys, your core guys. And with Jason Tatum being out, that they looked at it like, okay, we got to do something here, you know, because you're not in the championship run. This was a disappointing year for them. They thought they were going to the finals. They thought they were going to be NBA champions going into the season. Back to back. So, of course, they're going all in. They're putting all chips in. So now, okay, we're not winning a championship. We're a lot further off than what we thought. Porzingis was out, you know, in the most important parts of the season. He was out. Tatum rips his Achilles. You know, Jaylen Brown hasn't shown you that he can step up and be a leader and can put it on his back and carry. He's shown you some nights he can, but consistently can he go out and get 30 points a game and carry that team to where they want to go? They decided no. So they're starting to move guys.
They're taking a gap year. Let's get back to what Milwaukee did with Damian Lillard.
Lord.
They waive him. They give him the entire amount of money remaining on his contract, $113 million. I know it's minutia, but they have this provision in the CBA, waive and stretch. So they're going to stretch the salary over 5 years. They're going to pay him $22 million each year, dead money on their salary cap. I mean, that is a huge risk, especially if Giannis gets frustrated and says, trade me. Because then you got all his dead money you're carrying on the cap.
Well, here's the thing. That's why fans can't get mad at players when players want as much money as they can get. Because situation like this, you have a guy like Dame Lillard. First of all, he gets traded from Portland. He really didn't want to go there.
Didn't want to go.
He didn't want to go there, but he sucked it up, and he ended up playing there and playing well. He tears his Achilles in a playoff game representing the Milwaukee Bucks. He didn't tear his Achilles, playing outside in the pickup game in the Drew League. He didn't tear his Achilles out on the beach somewhere, running in the sand. He tore it on your watch, okay? And now he's rehabbing, has surgery. He's thinking about next year, when can I come back? He's got his mindset, I've got to come back certain times. He's working to come back. All of a sudden, he gets a text or reads it on Shams, and, he's been cut, let go. And everybody in the league is, shocked.
Yeah.
All the players with
the huge risk.
The tweets and stuff were shocked. And so when you're a player and you're Milwaukee and you're thinking about trying to bring free agents in there, they're going to look at you like, man, hell no. We saw what you did to Dame Lillard. Yeah. What are you going to do to me? Yeah. Dame Lillard is an established player in
Top
this league.
75 all time.
Yes, and you just cut him, and he was hurt. It wasn't like his production slipped from averaging 20-something points a game to 8, and you said his production is down, he's always injured. No, you cut him when he was hurt.
But on the other side of that, the Bucks officials flew out to Portland last month to talk to him, see how his rehab was going. So they wanted him to spend time in Milwaukee, and he said, no, I want to be out in Portland with my family. He didn't want to come back to Milwaukee to do his rehab. Plus, Dame has a player option on not next season but the season after, and he was not happy in Milwaukee. He may have opted out of that and gone to Miami as a free agent. So I think they there's always an argument on both sides.
Then you trade him.
Well,
you
can't trade him when he's hurt.
Once you see that he comes back and you see whatever, I'm telling you, listen, Achilles, people come back from Achilles easily.
He's gonna be 35 in a week.
But he's still Dame Lillard. He's still able to go out and get you 30. He's proven that in Milwaukee. He can play along other stars. He
ain't getting 30 after an Achilles tear.
No, I'm not saying he'll get 30, but what I'm saying is he's still a viable player to bring on your roster if you are so close to winning a championship. He's a guy you could bring in because he's not an athletic guy. He's not one of these guys that's a high flyer that plays above the rim. So Achilles is not going to – his Achilles rehab and when it gets fixed, it's not going to impact him because he's still going to shoot the ball. He's still going to have Dame time. He's still going to be a clutch player. That's never going to change. Maybe he loses a little athleticism, but guys who lose a lot of athleticism is guys like, who are high flyers with 40-inch verticals.
What about Tatum? How much is that going to impact? He's young.
He's young, but he's an athlete. He's athletic. Mm-hmm. It would probably take some of his athleticism away, but I don't think it's going to take a lot of it away because he also has the ability to post up. He also has the ability to shoot the 3-ball. He does a lot of different things, other than playing above the rim. I think he's kind of gotten away from that the last few years. They've been relying more on three-point shooting with the way the league is starting to trend, where you're getting 30, 40 threes a game. All these players now have kind of guided towards that, and they're not doing the high-flying dunks anymore. Anthony Edwards is probably the only one you really see on a nightly basis that attacks the rim.
So getting back to the Milwaukee situation, they brought back a lot of their guys on low-money contracts, team-friendly deals. The reports are they're talking to Chris Paul, maybe coming to be their starting point guard at age 40. They're talking to Malcolm Brogdon, who they originally drafted. Are the Bucks a playoff team, or are they a play-in team, or what do you make of that group they got now with Miles Turner and Giannis as the leaders?
Well, I mean, if you're the Bucks, I'm going to get Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would too.
I get Chris Paul. Chris Paul is at 40 years old, still high-level point
Played
guard.
all 82 last year for the Spurs.
Yeah, exactly. He's a guy that knows the game. He's a coach on the floor. He's going to make everybody better. He's going to take some pressure off of Giannis to have to do everything. He's not going to go out there and get you 25 every night. He's not going to do that. Chris Paul's more of an orchestrator. He's going to make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. And he's a coach on the floor, and he's not afraid to put guys in their place because he's a respected veteran in this league. So if Giannis is not doing what he's supposed to do, he will not hesitate to tell Giannis, yo, man, you want to win a championship, you got to do it this way. You got to play this way. And I think Giannis will respect him. Now, Miles Turner gives him a big upgrade. I like Brook Lopez, but you got more athletic.
Like Jurassic Park with him out there.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. It's listen, man. I mean, but he can
still shoot it.
He's still a rim protector. Yeah. He's still a body.
But Turner's a much better younger
He's a
version
much more athletic rim protector. Plus, he fits into what they're trying to do because you can't run a lot with Brook Lopez. You can't get out in transition and play this high tempo, up tempo that all the NBA is going to now. With Brook Lopez, he's a dying breed. He's better in the playoffs than you see in the regular season. But you got Miles Turner now that can fill a wing. You know, if Giannis gets the rebound, he's off and running. Now you got two bigs that are like gazelles out there on the block, which is tough to defend. But yeah, they need a point guard. I would go get Chris Paul if I'm, you know, and Doc Rivers has a lot of experience with Chris Paul. He's much more comfortable. I think he's got some experience with Brogdon too. I think he's coached him at some place somewhere because Brogdon's been around, but Brogdon's always hurt. He's always hurt. Like, I mean, the last 3 or 4 years, I mean, he's lucky if he plays 45, 50 games. So I'm going with Chris Paul. Played all 82 games as a senior citizen last year, and still one of the most respected players in the league, Hall of Famer. And he's going to make your team better. He's going to add to your team, not take away.
Most of the moves are already done in free agency. It's really the 4 restricted guys, including Josh Giddey and Jonathan Kuminga, who are waiting to see their fates. People are talking about winners and losers, and the teams that are talked about a lot, the Atlanta Hawks. They got Nickeil Alexander-Walker away from the Timberwolves. They picked up Luke Kennard at a really friendly price.
Porzingis.
Atlanta could be interesting, and Houston, you know, they really solidified their group. You know, they first of all, the Kevin Durant trade, but then they brought in Clint Capella on a free agent deal. This is going to be interesting to watch how these teams develop.
Listen, I said last year in the playoffs, Houston was a team to watch out for. You know, I thought it was still early for them. I thought, you know, Jalen Green is for them was a hit or miss. He could look like an all-star one game and then look like a guy who's a G League call-up in the next game. Very inconsistent play. But you get that with younger players, okay? I think the kid still has superstar potential if he's in the right situation. I think getting sent to Phoenix is a tough situation for him because you already got, you know, Devin Booker there who they just invested more money into. Mm-hmm. So he's playing at the position that Devin is playing, so that's tough. You still got Bradley Beal there that they're talking about buying
trying to buy him out.
Yeah, but he ain't going anywhere. He ain't buying anything now. Bradley Beal, I want all my money. I'm not doing no discount. So he's already made that clear. So unless you just buy him out completely and just say, hey,
there's a salary cap provision. He's going to have to take at least a $14 million haircut.
Well, he ain't taking that.
Well, then he's
staying there.
He's there.
Then if he doesn't do that, you send him home.
Yeah.
You just send him home and say, hey, look, Bradley, listen, man.
Well, you get your checks on the 15th and the 30th.
The first and the 15th. First and the 15th. Look in the mail, baby. You'll see an envelope from the Phoenix Suns. Enjoy it, man. Go out on vacation. Take your kids to Disney World. But you don't want him part of your team because then if you have him part of your team, you know, I don't know what goes on in their locker room. I don't know what kind of player he is. But obviously, you know, he didn't want to get traded. Obviously, he didn't want to leave there. So, you know, obviously he wants to stay there. So we don't want you there. So send him home because he's not giving you any value at home. And maybe sitting at home, he'll come to you and say, you know, I was with my wife and kids. They're driving me crazy. What do I need to do to get out? How much do I got to give back? How much do I need to defer? I'll do it because that's what will happen.
You think Atlanta is a top 6 team in the East now with the moves they've made?
Yeah, they moved up. They moved. I don't know if they're a top 6. I'd probably say 6 right now because you don't know. Listen, you don't know how Trae Young and those guys are going to play. You know, they're going to get the kid Johnson back from injury, which they were playing really well when he was there. Okay, how well will they all coexist with one another? You know what I'm saying? You got
Porzingis, if he can stay healthy, is big because he adds that 3-point shot dimension, which they didn't have.
Yeah, they didn't have that with their bigs. Okay, so but what you do get, you get a Porzingis guy who's a rim protector. He can shoot it. He'd be good in the pick and pop game with Trae Young. Trae Young looks like he's matured now, where he's not always looking to score all the time. He's one of the top guys in the NBA in assists. So he's trying to play both ways. He's trying to play the game the right way. He's not getting picked on defensively. He's still not a great defensive player, but he gives you effort. That's all. If you're a coach, that's all I want you to do. Just give me effort. Stay in front of your man. Don't be a traffic cone.
Now you got Dyson Daniels. You bring Alexander Walker off the bench, and then we both like Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson.
Back. He's going to be.
Is Okongwu still there?
Yeah.
So you got another young big to come off the bench with Porzingis. I mean, they're going to try to starting lineup, Mark, of, you know, Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson.
Reese Shea,
he'll be somewhere in there. And then Porzingis.
Yeah.
You go. That's a nice squad.
And then you're deep now. You've got some.
But they're not the only ones, Mark. They're not the only ones.
Orlando's going to be good.
Orlando's going to be good. I keep trying to tell y'all, don't sleep on Detroit.
Oh,
do not sleep on Detroit. I don't know what they've done this summer to strengthen up their team, but the team that they already have is solid. They were 6th seed last year, and you know a lot of people didn't. I guarantee in the preseason didn't have him 6 in the playoff hunt. You know, I'm guaranteed they had him either in a play-in or outside the play-in in the lottery thing. But I'm gonna tell you right now, keep an eye on them because they get Ivy back this year, healthy, and they're gonna be a nice team. And those veterans, I don't know if Beasley. Beasley might be gone. He might be gone with the gambling situation,
right?
And they
gave away a lot of money.
Yeah, they were getting ready to re-up him.
Yeah, 3 for 44. They were talking about.
Yeah, and then come to find out he's in this gambling probe. I'm telling you, man, right now. I mean, listen, I know gambling is big, but I'm telling you, he ain't the only one. There's probably other guys out there doing some side stuff and not thinking it's not anything like no big deal. But man, if I'm a coach or organization, I'm making sure that my players know. Do not get involved in that.
You can bet on everything now. There was a Cleveland Guardians pitcher who got suspended, and they were looking at pitches that he threw. You know, you can gamble on an individual pitch called micro betting.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can bet on everything.
Can you imagine somebody is that into gambling that you're betting on the next pitch? I mean, come on.
Listen. It's one thing. It's one thing, Mark. If the player was gambling and he was gambling on Alabama versus Tennessee, he's got no way to impact that game whatsoever. Okay, he's just a regular guy like we are, like regular people betting on the game. But when you start betting on the performance of your sport,
that's
and you know ins and outs of who's playing and who's not. Come on, man, that's too close to home. Yeah. Even if you say I didn't do it, it's like, oh no, man, come on, because Beasley got to ask some questions because they got receipts. They got receipts of like he owes people money from betting. I mean, they got some receipts. So.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that all turns out. What else in the NBA? Jaren Jackson signed a big deal, and then he got hurt. Michael Porter Jr. getting traded from Denver to Brooklyn.
You knew that was happening.
Everybody liked what Denver did, and all of a sudden Valanciunas said, I'm going to go play overseas, so he's gone. But they did get Tim Hardaway Jr., and they brought Bruce Brown back.
Okay. Well, I saw this. They
trade Cam Johnson, of course, for Michael Porter.
Okay, so to me, they've upgraded with Cam Johnson because Cam Johnson will accept being a third option or fourth option and still produce for you on both ends. He's going to hit threes. He's going to do the same thing Michael Porter Jr. did, but he's going to be a better defensive player and he's going to be a better soldier. He's not out there like, I'm better than Jokic. I'm better. I was number one. I should be this. I should. There was talk in the locker room that he was very disgruntled with his role on the team. He thought his role should be bigger. And when you win a championship, guys, when you started going like it was about me, you started to become selfish. And instead of saying it's a team game and understanding to win a championship, you have a pecking order. Okay. Everyone knows who the number one guy is, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Okay. Now it's up to you as an individual to find where you are in that pecking order. And once you figure that out, you play that role to the utmost. That's why championship teams win. That's why Oklahoma City was able to win. When you look at these teams who win championships, everybody knows their role. Okay. When you haven't won a championship and you have never played for a championship, everybody wants to be the man. Everybody wants to be the number one guy when it's very clear who the number 1 and number 2 guys are, but you ain't won anything. Like, well, you ain't won anything, so how can you be the number 1 guy? You know, so there's this discord amongst the other guys below 1 and 2. So everybody's fighting to be what they say is it's too many. There's too many Chiefs, not enough Indians. Okay. That's a true saying when it comes to team sports, is that everybody if you haven't won something, everybody thinks that they're the main guy. And it's funny because a lot of guys want to be the main guy until you get criticized. Till they say, you're not playing defense. Or why do you take those shots? Oh, go and talk to Mark. He's the number 1 guy now. I was number 1 guy last week when I had 40. I only had 8 tonight. Go talk to Mark.
It whispers we got to be careful. Stacey's being politically incorrect. It's too many Chiefs, not enough Guardians.
No, Mark. No Guardians, man. I'm still not used to that name.
That's crazy.
I'm so glad the Blackhawks didn't
here
change.
At Wrigley Field earlier this week.
I'm
just
so
too
happy.
Many bullets, not enough Wizards.
Listen, man, I'm just so glad the Blackhawks didn't change. I was like, come on, man. I don't know.
They'll get them eventually.
I don't know. No, they won't. No, they won't. No, they won't. No,
just
they
like
won't.
like the Seminoles in Florida when they tried after them, and they had to realize, wait, half the people who work here are Seminoles.
Yeah,
and they're like, yeah, you want to beat it or we'll.
Yeah, I was never a big fan of that. I mean, like the Redskins. You grew up watching the football games. The Washington Redskins. Now they're the Commanders. The Guardians. I say, oh man, So no, no. Too many. The saying is.
You're right.
Too many Chiefs, not enough Indians.
That is the saying.
Not Guardians. No, not Guardians, Mark. But yeah, that's what I'm saying with those teams. You got to, Jokic is the main guy. Yeah. It was a good move for Denver because they addressed a lot of issues. Yeah. They brought Bruce Brown back, who played an important role.
Hardaway as a shooter off the bench.
Hardaway gives you that PCP vibe. He doesn't play good defense like KCP does, but he's a guy that stretches the floor. He's athletic. he fits right into what they're doing. So they went back to the blueprint that would made them, a championship caliber team. Their bench was very weak. It was very exposed in that Oklahoma City series because if they had a deeper bench, they might have won that series.
It took them to 7.
It took them to 7 games.
Yeah.
I mean, they really, really showed that they could.
Gordon was hurt that last game.
Exactly. So they're right there. They're right there at the cusp. So they realize, like, listen, the window for Jokic is closing. It's shrinking. Okay, he's not. We got to put people around him to give him to maximize his ability to win championships for this organization. So you got to put all this other stuff aside, not being cheap. Go out and get the people you need to surround this kid. And because I know after that series, Oklahoma City, they were all kicking themselves like, man, if we would have had a Bruce Brown type player, a Jeff Green type player, we might have won this series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, before we move on, one last thing I want to get to is free agency. We've got Oklahoma City, Houston, Denver, definitely as contenders in the West. The Lakers bring back Jackson Hayes, and they signed DeAndre Ayton, who got bought out of his deal with Portland. Adding Ayton and retaining Hayes, does that make them a contender in the West?
They're always going to be a contender because you got Luka and LeBron there.
2 of the best 10 players in the world.
Luka is taking less talent. Okay, LeBron is taking less talent. I think if they can convince Ayton to play like his potential, he's a former number 1 pick.
Same agent as Luka, too.
Yes. If they can get him to come in and play like a big and really convince him, because, like, sometimes, Mark, you got to coddle guys. You got to tell them things that you normally wouldn't tell them. You're going to be the difference us winning a championship. We need you. LeBron tells him that. All of a sudden, his mindset clicks. LeBron needs me. Luka needs me. And now his attitude completely changes. Whereas these other places, you really shouldn't have to do that to a player that makes $25, $30 million a year, and you're a big guy and you're expected to play big. But he is talented. He's very talented. He could be a really good rim protector. Luka loves rim runners. So you set that pick and roll. He's made a living for Daniel Gafford and Lively in Dallas. Those guys got paid because of Luka. And so Luka is very good in the pick and roll with big guys that like to run and rim run. So they went out and got a guy who can rim run and also a guy that can pick and pop and shoot, and he's athletic enough to get up and down the floor. He's not some slug. And then they thought they were going to get Brook Lopez. But Brook Lopez had already seen this movie. Y'all got rid of me the first time I was here when I wanted to stay.
So he went to the Clippers.
Yeah, I'm going to the Clippers. Yeah. Okay, I want some stability. So, and he probably didn't want to play with LeBron because LeBron was the reason why they got rid of all those guys. Julius Randle. They had a squad. If LeBron would have been patient, that team might have won. They had Lonzo Ball there. Mm-hmm. They had Brandon Ingram. They had Josh Hart.
Yeah, they were drafting in the top 5 for a number of years.
They were drafting some very good players. And if LeBron would have just been a little patient and not had that win now attitude, you went out and got Anthony Davis. You won a championship in the bubble, which, championship's a championship. But at the end of the day, it's still a bubble. People still don't even count that one, right? But I do. Championship. They played the game. You had to play for something. You won. But at the same time, you only won one. You only won one. But if you'd had those kids still there, young Lonzo, young Ingram, who now are mature, and we've seen what they've all done outside of when they left L.A., they could have had that same maturation process in L.A., and they might have won multiple titles.
Okay, the Knicks got their coach finally. We talked about this at length last week, Mike Brown. They just, a career lifer. He's had some success in certain places, but, they fired Tibbs to bring in a guy who is certainly not as accomplished as Tom Thibodeau.
Exactly. Do it again, Tim.
Got to wait for it to recycle or the battery to heat up.
Exactly. What? I'm going to tell you right now. That's a downgrade. And I'm not saying Mike Brown's not a good coach, but you let a guy go. You had a great coach in your possession. Now, unless you're going out and get Rick Carlisle or Spoelstra, that's the only level that I'm looking at right now if you were going to replace Tibbs. Mike Brown has, lost. He's won. He was coach of the year in Sacramento and then got fired the next year. Players got tired of him. They were done. And he has that personality. Like, he's a good coach, but he can be overbearing. He wants to call a play every single time down the floor. Guys want to play free fall. They want to get out and run and get up and down the floor. That's the one thing you heard in Sacramento, even from some of their broadcasters, is that the players got tired of every single time down the floor. The first year he was there and won Coach of the Year, it was free flowing.
Yeah.
Just get the ball and go, hit the first open man, have fun. Then the second year was now we're structured. Now we got to, every time down the floor, he's calling a play, which you never get any rhythm. And you see the way the game is going now with a high pace. When you have a team that can be a high-paced team and you slow them down, it doesn't make the game fun for them.
So we'll see what happens. They've got a talented team. The Knicks and the Cavaliers, probably the co-favorites in the East. We'll see how Mike Brown can fare. If he doesn't do well, he's going to get destroyed by the media out there.
Oh, man.
It says on the rundown that Stacey wants to talk about the Jordan LeBron GOAT
Yes,
debate. So let's take a break. We'll come back with that and give me the hot sauce.
There's a survey that was done on ESPN.
We're back on Give Me the Hot Sauce. Stacey fired up during the break. He already kind of went over his argument. You're gonna love this. I think what triggered the latest stuff was LeBron and his agent Rich Paul putting out that cryptic statement when he opted into the final year of his contract, saying that he'll be watching intently to make sure that the Lakers have his best interests at heart, and they're going to make sure that he has a chance to win a championship. When he went on his own show the week before and said championships don't matter. Now all of a sudden they're threatening to leave to go to a team that gives them a better chance to win the championship. I mean, there's been reports he was seen working out at the Cleveland Cavaliers training facility.
Yeah, that was all scripted and plotted.
Yeah. I mean, but if he doesn't like the way this team is going, he doesn't have to finish his career in L.A. He may jump one more time trying to get that fifth ring.
If I'm L.A., when do you want to leave?
Yeah, and they may.
You want to take your son with you? When are you going to leave? Because listen. I get so tired of every day you see some kind of narrative about what makes him great, what makes him the GOAT, all this other stuff, and they discredit Michael. They tear down Michael, they tear down Kobe, and it's like they're stepping on those guys to push him ahead. Listen, I'm not here to dispute what kind of player LeBron James is. LeBron James is a top 5 player in the NBA when he's done playing.
Yes.
Okay, he'll be on Mount Rushmore. He'll be considered, like I said. I don't know where if I say anything. He's anywhere from 2 down to 5. Okay? That's a fair assessment. Okay? That's not being biased or anything. He's not the greatest of all time. He's not. Just because he played more years than most players. He's playing at 40 years old. People, he's playing at 40. He's doing all this. Okay, yeah. He's played what, 21 seasons now?
This will be his 23rd coming up.
23rd season, okay? Most players don't. Kareem was like one of the last people that played like a long, long time like that. You know, to me, that's stat padding. To me, that's stat padding. The more years you add, you're trying to distance yourself on the all-time scoring list. Because it took him, 30-plus years for somebody to challenge Kareem. Now, think about what it's going to take to challenge LeBron. And then when LeBron is done and they start trying to cut the league games down from like 82 to 66, no one will break that record.
No.
That record will sit there for the, we'll be gone when somebody breaks that record. But my argument with this is like, look, why do you have to tear one guy down to build another guy up? I don't understand that.
That's the way our world
Instead
works.
of just saying, hey, look, they're great players. They played in different eras, and Michael did what he did with less talent. Okay, serious. He did. When you look at the numbers, and people always tend to ignore the numbers. They just look at, it's like looking at a car on the outside saying, look at that Ferrari. It's really nice. And, but it's a shell. It's a Hyundai engine. Okay, that's what it looks like. Outside it looks like a fast car, beautiful car, but it's a Hyundai engine. So when you look at the numbers, they don't like to look at the numbers. They only look at the numbers where it favors LeBron, but they don't look at the numbers of what's actually between the lines. Tim, talk about the first 10 years, Tim. Tim, this is our research guy. When we depend on research, we go to Tim.
Well, the first 10 seasons, you start breaking this down, and as I did this research, Kobe comes in at second. It just does after you go through everything. Taking the first 10 seasons, points and rebounds and so forth. Points between LeBron and Michael are pretty close. Jordan's got about 1,000 more points the first 10 years, but rebounds, assists, and steals, it starts to really fall apart. Nearly 900 more rebounds, 1,000 more assists, and was that 800 more steals in those first 10 years. And the only guy that was close in those numbers would have been Kobe, and Kobe was more than LeBron's. But what's really interesting is start adding other people because they start showing up when you do these stat finds that career 50-point games. Michael 39, Kobe 26, LeBron 13, and then Kevin Durant is always considered one of the top scorers in history, 6.
Now that right there is a little skewed.
A little skewed.
Yeah, a little skewed because if you threw in Wilt Chamberlain and you put Will Chamberlain's numbers in there, it dwarfs everybody's.
And he was playing against plumbers.
Yeah, well, and listen, I don't. You
They had to have
can't,
that day
you
job.
know, you
They have
can't
to have another
you know,
job.
you can't argue about when guys play. They played who was in the league.
Exactly
okay?
right. Yeah.
But where the advantage was for those guys, they didn't have to see 32 teams. They didn't have to go through 32. They played like 10, 11. That's why Boston won so many championships, because you didn't have to go against this huge. And I'm not talking about Boston when Larry Bird and the Cowens and all those guys came along. I'm talking about when Bill Russell was there and Bob Cousy. They didn't have a lot of teams. They were playing with like 10,
There were 8
12
teams.
Yeah, they were in a lot, and they were dominating. Plus, they were able. There was no salary cap for Boston. They can go out and get the best players every year. So they were stocking up. If you look at their roster, almost all them flags and the banners that hang up there,
Hall of Famers.
They got like 25, 30 guys, and all those guys they went out and paid for, and they were dominating.
Where they end up at age 35. Just looking at total accolades, Jordan's got nearly as much as LeBron and Kobe together, between MVPs, trophies, Defensive Player of the Year. But then ESPN did a survey a few years back on who would you want taking your game-winning shot. Jordan 88%, Kobe 12%. Big goose egg for LeBron.
Yeah,
He got nothing. Career playoff go-ahead or game-tying shots. Jordan 9 of 18, LeBron 8 of 22, Kobe 7 of 28, which is obviously a drop-off. And then field goal percentages, it's not even close, 50% for Jordan, 36% for LeBron.
and I will say this, about LeBron could go in the 90s and play in that era because he's big and strong. He would be able to handle himself in that, But I was telling somebody on X, which I still call Twitter. We were arguing about about this same various topic. That's why we're talking about it today. They were talking about when I said when Jordan played during the championship run, okay, when Jordan was winning championships, we won the first 3 and they won 6 out of 8. When Jordan was playing, nobody ate. Nobody got to go to the main diner because we were there. No one was beating Michael during that time, during the championship runs. You look at LeBron and his championship. We're only counting their championship run. We're not talking about what they did before they came in the league or the first 2 years when they were developing Michael's first 7 years. We're not talking about that. We're talking about championship years. When LeBron was winning championships or playing for championships, everybody ate. Spurs won titles. Golden State won. Steph Curry won titles. San Antonio won titles. You see Denver won a title. Oklahoma City's won a title. There's teams have won championships on LeBron's watch. And that's not all LeBron's fault. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is when you consider yourself the greatest and you play with so many Hall of Famers. Now Tim's got another stat of Hall of Fame players in their prime that each of these guys played. Tell them, Tim.
LeBron 12, Kobe 9, and Michael 2.
2.
That makes a difference.
Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman, right?
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
He didn't have to go to super teams. He didn't have to. Michael would never call Larry Bird up when he wasn't beating the Boston Celtics or Detroit Pistons saying, "Hey man, let's form a team and let's win championships." Okay, that was never the case. Okay, these guys nowadays don't want to put the work in. They don't want to go out and earn it. They want the easiest path to a championship. And LeBron has created that. LeBron has created that narrative of these super teams. Now you see it in AAU. You see it, all these kids are doing it. They're jumping from team to team. You see it in the portal. Guys no longer want to work and earn and earn their right to start on a team. Well, coach not playing, I'm leaving. I have a friend that has a son who's transferred to 4 different schools in 4 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's insane. It's like, and so when you're that kid or you're any kid in that situation, you're talking about getting to the pro level. The first thing an NBA scout or NBA organization going to look at is, are you dependable and accountable? Are you a guy that we can count on? When the going gets tough, are you going to be there? Are you going to buckle in, pull your bootstraps up, and let's go? Or are you going to run? Because it looks like in your college career, when things don't go your way, you leave, you transfer. And that's why the portal has been such a bad thing for college basketball. They need to go in and fix that. They need to say, listen, you get 1 transfer. That's it. Use it wisely. That's your get out of jail card. Mm-hmm. Use it wisely. If your coach leaves, you don't want to play for the new coach, that's your portal. if you leave him because you're not playing or your NIL money is not good or whatever the situation, that's it. You go to that next school, you can no longer transfer. And they need to correct that because that's doing a lot of bad for the game.
So the MJ LeBron debate will go on forever. And, it depends, I guess, on when you were born as to which side you favor. But
wait a minute, Tim's got one more.
Well,
Tim's got the NBA fans pick Jordan over James in the GOAT debate.
Yeah, so these are 600 hardcore NBA fans. This was in 2020. But the funny part is best defensive player. That's the only part where they get close, 59% Jordan, 41% LeBron. But the three of us, who would you say is a better defensive player?
Oh, MJ.
Yeah, he won multiple awards.
Yeah,
all defensive team honors.
Yeah, nine of them.
Listen, LeBron is more Magic. Let's be honest. He's more Magic. He's going to make his teammates better. He's going to get the passes. He's not a guy. If Kyrie Irving doesn't hit that shot against Golden State, they don't win. He's passed up shots to give, someone else. Maybe he doesn't like the pressure. Maybe he don't like pressure missing that shot. I'm gonna let him do it. I'm gonna let this guy do it. And he's more Magic than Michael. Kobe was more Michael. He emulated everything Michael did, and he's a killer. You see it with some of these kids now. They're like, the kids like Tatum and all that. They love Jordan, but they grew up watching Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
The Mamba mentality. A lot of these guys.
I just got to throw one more thing here because this is all these other analytics here, which just make it look. If you get into it, it's not even close. But that one.
People can't see that.
No, I was going to have Stacey.
We're looking at your computer.
MJ is the only player in history to win Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, and a ring in the same year.
Yes.
I mean, you're just a monster out there at the end of the day.
I mean, if you see these, I wish everybody could see these numbers. The most 50, 53, 55-point games in the playoffs, most 50-point games in the playoffs. He dwarfs everybody.
It doesn't end. Yeah.
This whole screen has nothing but MJ, unbelievable stats. And not only has he got the stats, he's got the wins to back it up. And so, like I said, I'm not discrediting LeBron. LeBron's a great player. Kobe's a great player. But if I was to say, put the 50,000 points away, because you got to remember, Michael was hurt one year. He missed a whole season with a broken foot. Michael came in this league as a 21-year-old. LeBron came in as an 18-year-old. And he played. He didn't have to sit on the bench. The keys were given to him as an 18-year-old. So his first 2 or 3 years would actually be, let's say he had to stay in college 3 years. Okay? Maybe he doesn't have these numbers. Maybe he doesn't come into, these numbers. But how many 18-year-olds did you see a franchise give the keys to and say, go play, do what you do? He's averaging 25, 26 points as an 18, 19-year-old. Kobe had to wait 2 years before he got out there. MJ came in this league as a 21, 22-year-old. So he missed those 3 years of actually being able to go out there, and maybe he couldn't do it. Maybe he couldn't do it at 18, what he's doing at 22 and 23 years old. We don't know because Dean Smith was the best person to ever guard Michael Jordan in college was Dean Smith. So now imagine him coming here. No one knew that Michael was going to do what he did here in the NBA, but a few people knew it. Bobby Knight spoke on it. Roy Williams spoke on it. A lot of guys who know Michael spoke on it. That they saw it. That they saw if he got to the right place, he was going to tear this league up, and he did.
You done, Whispers?
Well, there's a lot more, but
All
we're going to call it.
Contact Tim at Telleray.com.
Yes.
He'll give you the whole
Yes.
breakdown.
That's right. Hey, I'll send it to you. No problem.
All right, before we get out of here, time for a regular feature. What are we watching? Stacey, what are you watching these days?
Oh, man, I went back to an old school movie, man. Michael Douglas and Andy Garcia, Black Rain. That is an awesome movie.
Not Purple Rain.
No,
We're talking Black Rain.
So these guys, they break up they get involved with the triad in China. And so a guy comes in broad daylight, they're at a restaurant eating. Guy comes in, a gang comes into this restaurant in New York City while they're there and pulled out a gun and then slit the guy's throat. The boss from another gang slit his throat right in front of everybody in broad daylight. Michael Douglas said, no, don't do this. Don't get involved. Andy Garcia is a young cop. He's, brash and everything. He wants to get involved. So they end up pulling their guns. All right, please move. They have a shootout in there. And the head guy, Sato is his name, Sato. They catch him. They bring him into jail. He gets extradited to Japan. They want him there because his gang is like the biggest gang.
Here goes Stacey again.
You know what, Mark? I don't want to hear your mouth, okay? If you have, listen, that movie is 1980-something. If you haven't seen it in America, I'm sorry, okay? So anyway, if I was really interrupted, okay? So Sato gets extradited to Japan. they have to bring him over there. They have to get Michael Douglas is mad because it's his arrest. Now we got to take him back, so they take him over to Japan. He ends up sending some people over to get him out. They thought they were police officers, so they tricked him. They freed Sato. So the whole movie now they're chasing this guy. So they end up doing some things in there that, you know, at the end, Michael Douglas is good at this movie. You don't see Michael Douglas too much anymore.
No.
You know, you don't see, because he had the throat cancer and everything. You don't see him too much anymore. But he was a great actor. You know, that's one of my favorite movies. Black Rain. If you haven't seen it, it's you probably can get it on Netflix. You can probably get it on Paramount. That's where I watched it at, and it's awesome.
All right, Whispers, what do you got?
I went and saw F1.
Yeah, I heard great reviews on that.
Yeah, I did the IMAX experience, the only way to do it, and it was much better than I expected. It was really well done. Good story, great action, and then it was so well done. I had to look up some stuff. Brad Pitt actually put over 6,000 miles in an F1 car. There is no CGI. They are driving.
Is that right?
They're actually driving the cars with other F1 drivers, and they're completely involved in the filming of this, and
so it looks
racing
real
around the track. I mean, not at the full speeds, but they did some pretty.
But it looks
impressive
real
stuff.
though. It looks real.
And then it's funny because I was like, man, this is just like Maverick or Top Gun, but on the ground. And lo and behold, it's the same director.
And every year the visual effects get better. I mean, the way they make the films just.
Yeah, but I was surprised
seat.
to see that. And then you got to remember, this is a guy. Brad Pitt's actually, I think, 62 or something like that. So they never say his age in there because there's no way a 62-year-old is driving a car. But he completely pulls it off.
He looks young though.
No, they're kind of saying he's around 48, 50.
Is that the end of his
they're
career?
alluding to that because he had raced as a kid against like Ayrton Senna and those types of guys. Nicky
It's kind of like a
Lauda.
Steve McQueen movie. You see Steve
Yeah,
McQueen.
it's really well done.
Yeah, it's like a Steve McQueen movie.
Because normally the race car drivers can't go that long because it's so physically demanding.
I mean, you have Alonso now who's still racing for Aston Martin. I think he's 44, and he's considered like the grandpa out there. It's kind of funny.
Wow. I'm going to check that out, man.
Yeah, it's very, very well done. Yeah. And go IMAX.
Yeah, you gotta take in the full experience. Season 4 of Welcome to Wrexham is wrapped up. That's a story about the Wales soccer team that was bought by Hollywood actors Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. And the amazing thing about English soccer is that not only can you move up in a league based on your record, you also can get relegated down. So if you have a bad year, you drop down a level. Wrexham has gone up 3 years in a row, and the behind-the-scenes story about how they acquired the talent to bring these players in, and it's unheard of for a team to be promoted 3 straight years. Now they're knocking on the door of the Premier League, and if they ever accomplish that, that'll be an amazing story. So it's really well done. A lot of behind-the-scenes stories about the players and a lot of Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds. So if you haven't checked it out, it's on Hulu. Definitely recommend it. So,
oh man, and one more thing. Yeah, we lost a great actor, Michael Madsen.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, man, Chicago's home. Yeah, I just read that the other day, man. I was so sad because he's a great character actor. He plays a great bad guy. He was Mr. White. Mr. White in Reservoir Dogs.
The dancing with the razor.
Oh my, yeah. I'm gonna tell you something. He played that role to the hilt, man. He had no remorse for anything. Just a great actor. Kill Bill. He was in a lot of stuff. His sister Virginia Madsen. Man, prayers to his family, man. Just a sad thing. I guess he was in California and was did a physical the week before and was great, and then just passed away, natural causes, which is sad. He was a great actor, man. I really enjoyed his films, and it's sad, man. Chicago guy.
Right. Yeah. So we appreciate you tuning in. We'll have a brand new episode for you next week. Maybe we get some resolution on the Josh Giddey restricted free agency and some other NBA stories. Cubs are still in first place. They hit 8 home runs on 4th
Let's
of
go,
July.
Cubbies. I'm getting ready to put on the hat, baby.
Stacey's got the Expo hat on.
I'm
You
getting ready
saw
to put
the
the hat.
blue when you walked in. I thought he's got to come back.
Not yet.
He said if he makes it to the 4th, what happened?
Yeah, okay. we just got to the 4th yesterday.
We're counting
It
days.
starts the next week. I'll have one if they continue.
Franchise record, 8 home runs as they beat the Cardinals on 4th of July. So we'll talk some baseball and get you ready for footballs. That's right around the corner. And in the meantime, try to stay cool.
And drive home safe in Chicago. Beep, beep.
He didn't come for the massage, he came for the facial. Don't zoom on it. Does anybody know how to post videos to Facebook? There's a block right behind you to get the invitation.
That's a huge three.
Mustard!
Lonzo left alone.
Able to swerve, bend that corner.
That's the last time I'm going to see it. Williams straight up.